So here is our week one. We're going to do a review of linear graphs. So this is what we were focusing on prior to us going on our break. We were supposed to have a test on this. So we're just going to do a little review for our first week of distance learning. So if you have this sheet, it might be good to follow along. If you can print it out, print it out. If not, you can just take down some notes in your notebook or just watch the video and then you can give it a shot afterwards. So our first thing that we need to remember are different formulas. So first one is our slope formula, our change in y over change in x. So if you remember, the little triangle means change in. So those are two of the ways that you might see it written. You might also see it as rise over run. So those all represent slope. Then we have our slope-intercept form. So we have y equals mx plus b. So see if you can remember, what does m stand for and what does b stand for? M stands for the slope, because we've got our m there as well. And b stands for our y-intercept. And then we have our standard form, our ax plus by equals c. So x and y are on the left side, the constants on the right side. So I'm going to do one problem in each section just as a little review to help you along, and then you can try the other ones on your own for practice. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find slope on a graph. So when we're finding slope on a graph, the easiest thing to do is to count. So as you can see, I have two dots that are created for me. And all I have to do is just figure out, do I have to go up and down or left and right to get to the next point? So if you remember, a lot of people were getting confused about whether or not it should be a positive if it's left and right, if it should be a negative. So just to add in a little notes, if you're going to the left or down, you get a negative number. And if you're going to the right or up, you get a positive number. So that might be something good to put on your paper if you forget which direction to go in. So here, as you can see, I drew my little squiggles. I feel like it's helpful to me to count. So I had to go down 1, 2, 3. So since I went down, I put a -3 there. And then I had to go to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So +4 is to the right. So that means that my slope is -3 over 4. Then the next section asks us to find the slope again, but we don't have a graph, so we can't do rise over run. We have 2 points. So when we have 2 points, the best method is to do our slope formula. So I'd like to label everything, x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I just have to follow the formula. So y2, which is -6, minus y1, which is -4. Now remember, when it was negative, we put it in parentheses, so that we remember to have 2 negatives there. x2 minus x1. When I throw all that good stuff into my calculator, I end up getting -2 over -5, but we want it simplified. We know 2 negatives make a positive, so this just becomes +2/5. Down here, in this section, they just want us to write our equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So I have to identify my m, which is the slope, my b, which is the y-intercept, and now just plug in. Y equals m, which is 1/3, x plus b. Now I'm not going to put plus -1, right? I'm just going to put in -1 because I don't want to have double signs. So that's my equation in slope-intercept form. If we're given a graph and we have to write in slope-intercept form, we still need to find these two pieces, m and b. So my slope, as you can see, I already started it. I had to go down 1, 2, 3, and then I had to go to the right 6. So rise over run. Now, I want to see if I can simplify that. Now, I know that 3 goes into both the top and the bottom. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 3, I will get -3 divided by 3 is -1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So in simplest form, my slope is -1/2. My y-intercept, I have to look at the y-axis, this line right here. And I have to say, where am I crossing the y-axis? So that would be my b. So I go up 1, 2, 3. So positive 3 is my y-intercept. And then I just plug into the formula. Y equals m, which is negative 1/2, x plus b, which is 3. Now we're going to graph each equation using slope-intercept form. So basically what we just did, just in reverse. Now we're given the equation, so we're going to graph it. All right, so if you have your handy-dandy ruler, that's great. Use a straight edge, your phone, your calculator, whatever you got. I'm still going to identify those two important pieces of information. So y equals mx plus b is my formula. Now, whatever is next to x is my slope. So there's an imaginary 1 right there. So that must mean my slope is 1. And what did we always do when we had our slope? We turned it into a fraction by putting it over 1. My b is my number that's by itself. So since 6 is hanging out by itself over here, that's my y-intercept. So now I'm going to graph my y-intercept first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put a nice big dot. And then this says 1 over 1. So positive 1 means go up. Over positive 1, go to the right. Remember, if you run out of space, you can always go the opposite way. Down 1, left 1. How many points determine a line? 2. So once I have at least 2 points, I'm going to connect them. And what always goes on the ends? Arrows. Okay. Next, we're going to find the x and y intercepts of each equation. Plug in 0. So here, to find my x-intercept, I plugged in 0 for y. But I need to know what the number is. So here's just an equation. So to get x by itself, I have to subtract 6 first. And then I have to get x by itself still. So to do that, I have to divide by negative 2. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my x-intercept is 3. So I'm going to put 3, 0, because that's what y was. My y-intercept, I plugged in 0 for x. So I'm just going to simplify the right side. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. So my y-intercept is 0, which is x, 6. So plug in and solve. If it's in standard form, we've got our lovely cover-up method. So for cover-up method, we are going to cover up whatever we're looking for. So if we're finding the x-intercept, I'm going to cover up y, and what's left over? X equals negative 5. So that was nice and easy. I don't have to solve anything. X equals negative 5. So I'm going to put a negative 5 on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's x-axis on negative 5. X-axis, y-axis. For the y-intercept, I'm going to cover up the x. So what's left over? 5y equals negative 5. And if this was a negative in front of the 5, I would keep that with it. But since it's positive, just a positive 5y. I still don't have y by itself. It's not easy like the first one, so I have to get y by itself by dividing by 5. So y equals negative 1. So I'm going to put negative 1 on the y-axis. 2 points determine a line. So draw my line, do my arrows, done. I'm going to leave the bottom 2 for you to do since there's only 2 equations. So we've got y equals and x equals. But remember, when it's y equals or x equals, it's a straight line, specifically a horizontal line or a vertical line. So I filled in the bottom to kind of help you along. So remember, Hoy and Vux, they're not going away. So Hoy is horizontal lines, have 0 slope, and they cross the y-axis. There's my horizontal line. Vertical lines have undefined slope and cross the x-axis. So if you see a y equals, and if you see an x equals, there's your little hint to help you graph each equation. So I hope this was helpful to get you started. Ms. L and I will be on Google Chats if you need any help, so feel free to reach out to us. Have fun.